Hello, friends. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. I am here to discuss the last few chapters of Dark World Lightwork that I read. I do not remember the numbers, but the titles were Racism is an Inferiority Complex, The Lincoln Project, and Not an Escape. Okay, and so racism is an inferiority complex. In that chapter, I tell the tale of the first time I really experienced extended overt racism, and that was in Southern California. I had experienced short-term versions of this in the South whenever I went to the South, which is why I didn't spend very much time there. But I had never experienced anything like it for an extended amount of time like I did when I was in Southern California, particularly because I am from Las Vegas, Nevada, and that is a place that is very inclusive and very diverse just by nature. And the chapter is really more about how that is spectacular, then the rest of it is not so great. But the whole thing is very interesting because it just deals with the history of racism all the way back to the beginning tropes of mankind. The next chapter is called The Lincoln Project, and that is the story of me attempting and failing to buy a Lincoln SUV. There is a lot of stories like this in the book where there is definitely a supernatural element going on because I am compelled by the spirit to do things oftentimes in this story that I would not do myself, don't even want to do, but they end up unearthing something. And the Lincoln Project is one of those situations. I was trying to buy a used car and I kept running into these scam car dealerships, like where the cars were messed up, but they would promise you that they'd fix the cars, or they'd give you like some sort of story about how if you purchase the car, then you bring it back and then that's when they'll do the repairs. Some really weird stuff. And the guys were always from the same place. I just kept hearing this same accent and this same vibe. And I ended up going to one of them and getting in an interaction with a guy who tried to take my money. And I ended up having to call the Better Business Bureau on him and everything. But it just unearthed some strange thing going on. The guy was from Belarus, and there was a lot of guys from that area. And they all had the same vibe going with this car dealership that was like kind of shady, and they were really weird. But that is the Lincoln Project. And the next story is Not an Escape. And that is a story of me trying to buy yet another car, and it is a Mazda Tribute. This time I succeeded buying the car, and it is promptly smashed to smithereens. I purchased the car, and I end up with no house and two cars. So I am juggling having two cars, parking one in the parking lot of a car rental place, a place where I knew that there was always going to be cars so it wouldn't stand out. And so I'm walking to the place where I sleep and leaving this car and switching cars, and it was insane. And I really didn't want the car anyway. And it got smashed to bits and I had to sell it. Somebody actually wanted it and bought it, and I had to sell it for half the price, and it was crazy. And that was after I had tried countless times to fix my own car, and get the engine fixed. And that's a story I'll tell another day as well. And it was crazy. The whole thing was crazy. I made a video earlier about just how much suffering and trials and tribulations I've been through in this walk with God that I've been on, and little things like that, and the trials and tribulations that I went through with my car, something that man really, I mean, at the end of the day, when I tell that story, I'm sorry, there's something, a hair in my face. There was human error that was the reason that my car is messed up anyway. But the point was those little things like that were always the spirit messing with me. And even if there's a lot of people who say, well, that's the devil energy, fine, but God sent that devil energy. So it was all this spiritual energy always constantly messing with me, on top of people messing with me, on top of all of that. And it got to be almost comical because at some point you just have to laugh at all that. And I did, and I do in the book. I was able to talk to the person who read my whole book. He understood it. That's the most important part. I did not blather on, even though it was really long. He was able to follow along. He understood it. He was engaged. He had questions. He looked up some of the players and he figured out who they were, and that's really exciting. Some of them he didn't even figure out who they were. I think one of them he didn't figure out who it was, which is kind of funny because I thought I made it clear, but maybe I didn't, so that's exciting. And I am just very excited to finish the last few chapters with you, and hopefully at some point other people will have questions, because that was so much fun. He had a list of questions, which was just so exciting to just go back and forth and talk about it. It was really a great time. And I hope you're having a great time here, and I will talk to you later.